Our case was the State versus Moore, and the police officer was searching a car. It doesn't say what he was pulled over for, but they smelled marijuana in the car, and so they searched the car and they searched the trunk of his car and found marijuana in the trunk. And he sued, saying that they didn't have the right to search his trunk if he wasn't pulled over for the marijuana, and because it wasn't a part of the car, that smelling it wasn't enough. And the court ended up siding with the police officer, saying that smelling it was enough to search the car. And it says, do you think the court's ruling strikes a balance between the two of protecting citizens from harm and protecting your personal rights? And I don't necessarily know if it comes to a balance, but I think it was right that they could do it, just because, like, if you get pulled over for speeding or something, you're not getting pulled over because you're not wearing a seatbelt, but if they look in your back seat and see you're not wearing a seatbelt, they're going to charge you with that too, because you're breaking the law. And it's the same thing here. Or if you have someone in your trunk, obviously that's not legal either. You can't drive around with kidnapping people. But if they pull you over for swerving and they hear someone knocking on your trunk, they're going to search your trunk. And so if they smell something illegal in your car, they should be allowed to search your car.
Okay, there was one final question on that.
Today's climate has, what are some examples of the public versus privacy? And we thought the police that have the technology where they can point it and listen into conversations a block or two away, we thought it was okay, because like you can bug people if you have a warrant. So I think we said that if you have a warrant, it's alright, because it's the same thing, except you don't have to get in the house. But can the officers take that and like just do it when they feel like it? Is it okay to, like, if we use Chelsea, if we pointed at Chelsea's house and Chelsea's like threatening to kill her mom or something, like, would the police be allowed to go in and stop that? Because they really had no right to listen to the conversation, but they still have a right to protect the people. So that's where we thought there's really some hot topics there today.
What about some other current, political trends, the way the climate is today, and search and seizure issues? Any other thoughts?
Patriot Act.
Yeah, Patriot Act. Anybody want to add anything to that?
I have a question. Well, no, it's a statement. I'm thinking like police shouldn't have the right to do something like that, because they're the police, but some police just take it out of, I don't know, they just really just think that stuff, that stuff or whatever, and they really just do stuff because they know they can do it. And I think just about smelling, I don't think they got the right, personally.
Well, the Fourth Amendment protects us from unreasonable search and seizure. Who's to say what's unreasonable?
Right.
That's really the question, is whether or not, is it unreasonable, and you're trying to strike that balance between the police, their obligation, their duty to protect people, versus somebody's privacy. And again, I'm not looking here.
They're not hurting nobody's time.
I get a question for you. If a police officer pulls a guy over for speeding, smells alcohol, lets him go, and he hits you, and you become paralyzed, who are you going to be mad at?
I'm mad at the police.
Why?
Because they didn't get him, but it's not even like that. But if he wasn't even doing that at the time, he wasn't like sitting there high in the car driving. Well, we didn't at the time because they didn't mention anything about it.
They said they smelled the pot.
They smelled it, but like,
I still don't.
Smell it. There's some kind of
People have a right for privacy. You're point blank.
I say that a police officer smelling pot is definitely reasonable suspicion.
Okay, what was your comment?
I think the moral of the story is don't drive around with drugs in your trunk.
Keep yourself clean. All right, I don't think we have any more over this area. I think we've got presidential power. I'm not leaving.
In the South Korean War, 1950, the Steelworkers of America Union threatened to go on strike because of constant workloads. They were making army equipment for the troops. day and night, working constantly. But when President Truman was going to seize and operate the mills, they went to courts. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled that even in wartime, the president could not take the mills. Then in 2004, the President George Bush tried to make a ruling that enemy combatants could be imprisoned in the war on terror. But they overruled him and said that the military expert did not have ruling over the judiciary decisions, and that he could not take over other branches. I think this is still relevant today because if the president today decided that, like we were saying, for example, in the schools, for example, they were going to court because of their dress code. The president decided that he wanted to make a ruling because he didn't like the shirts the kids were wearing, or he didn't like the clothes they came in. If he decided that he was just going to make a law that they couldn't do that anymore, take over the decision that the Supreme Court should be able to decide, then that would be a very big problem, and that would be taking away from democracy. So.
Did you have one final discussion question that you wanted to throw out?
It says also name other conflicts that arise due to the checks and balances of each branch of government. We didn't get to this question, so if anyone has any answers for this.
What was the question?
Name other conflicts that arise due to the checks and balances of each branch of government.
Does anybody remember the other day when they talked about the election where Andrew Jackson lost and how John Quincy Adams got elected?
He got new voters. He got some new voters. Was that it?
New voters?
Voters. Yeah.
Yeah, but remember the specific election where who decided that John Quincy Adams won over Andrew Jackson? Remember, Andrew Jackson won the popular vote, but then he didn't win the electoral vote was tied, and then who decided to break the tie?
Oh, that was when Brian was like, the Supreme Court, ha ha ha.
Right.
I don't remember what the real answer was.
Well, remember
The House of Representatives.
Right. So could you maybe say that looking at the 2000 election, that same issue comes up? Is that maybe a challenge to checks and balances?
I think that Congress is extremely powerful if they were able to come to a complete agreement. Like if too many of one side, like Democrat Republicans, take over Congress, then I think it would be extremely powerful.
You also have the opposite thing going on right now in Congress with the troop withdrawal from Iraq. Congress is clearly Democratic, and they want them out of there right now. And they drove a plan, passed it, got to President Bush, he vetoed it, and sent it right back. So they're having checks and balances issue right there.
But then if Congress could get the more votes that they would need now, because I don't know exactly how much more they'd need, because I don't know the exact figure. But if I say that number right there would be that number of Congress were able to agree completely, then they would be like extreme power.
Any other comments? Good discussion, guys.